Hey, friends. Welcome to the Divorce Clarity Studio on WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network Radio, Podcasts, and TV. I'm your host, Lisa Lisser, creator of LZL Coaching, a boutique coaching practice focused on divorce, relationships, and life transitions. My goal is to offer clear information, grounded education, and soul-centered guidance to help you understand the divorce process from start to finish without shame, fear, or overwhelm. And we add a touch of laughter, and that goes a long way. I highlight experts who've gone through their own divorce experiences. Although each of our stories is unique, they share intrinsic commonalities that resonate with all of us. My goal is to raise up stories that let you feel seen, give you information to move forward, and foster the courage to stand on your own 2 feet. Today, I'm excited to welcome my friend and teacher, Mardi Chadwick-Balcom. Mardi and I met through a divorce support platform called Fresh Starts Registry. Her story resonated with me because of my own journey. Like me, she's an attorney, but she's been in practice for 27 years. I shifted out of practice after 7. She and I both went through divorce, and after that, our approach to everything shifted. I dug into Jewish learning, and she dug into somatic healing and nervous system regulation. In our own ways, we pursued something off the beaten track. It was different, it was a little unique, but it was what made us approach that next chapter with authenticity and inspiration. So I'm gonna read your bio, Mardi. And it's pretty amazing. So here goes. As I mentioned, Mardi is a divorce mediator, an attorney, a somatic healer, and a podcast host with 27 years of experience in family law. She's the founder of Integrative Divorce Mediation, which is a nervous system-centered mediation and coaching practice built on the belief that how we move through divorce shapes everything after. She blends all aspects of her life, bringing together her legal expertise with somatic healing, Kundalini yoga, and breathwork to offer couples a radically different path, one rooted in regulation, not litigation. Her approach is built on one simple truth. When your nervous system feels safe, you make better decisions, you protect your kids, and you spend a fraction of what traditional divorce costs. She is the host of the Regulated Lawyer podcast, which is launching in June. And it's a show for people navigating divorce, as well as the legal and helping professionals who support them. When she's not in session or on the mat, you can find Mardi cold plunging in the waters near her home in Newburyport, Massachusetts. I see it as that natural, original cold plunge. Welcome, Mardi.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. I'm so grateful to be here. I've been so excited to do this with you and just talk and share with your audience a little bit about what I'm up to.
I love that. As I mentioned earlier, like we connected based on what we had in common and also our different paths because they both were creative based on what was part of us to start, but might have been covered up by all of the years of messaging that we had in our lives. So what I'm going to do is how I start every interview with a foundational question. Tell us your story.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. Growing up, I thought I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. And I was really good at arguing. So somehow decided I was going to be a lawyer. And I remember announcing to my dad in high school, like, this is what I want to do. And he just looked at me and he's like, I don't like lawyers. You may be the first lawyer I like. Like, the good thing about lawyers is they make a lot of money. But I don't know that you're going to do that. You're going to be one of those do-good lawyers. That's not your thing. And I didn't take it as an insult. I actually took it as a compliment that, yeah, this isn't about money and dollars for me. It's really about more of a mission. Mm-hmm. And so with that, knowing from an early age that somehow the law was my pathway to my greatest work, I didn't know it was going to end up here. I didn't know that I was going to actually have to go through my own divorce. I didn't actually intend to be a divorce lawyer. I intended to be a prosecutor. I wanted to work on domestic violence cases. That's really domestic and sexual violence was something very near and dear to my heart. I became aware of it in college, and I
Mm.
ended up in working for a domestic violence program out of law school, and that was really what took me on this trajectory to where I am today. So I couldn't have imagined this story, but it's been an incredible story of a lot of learning who I am, becoming someone new, reinventing myself, or maybe actually finding myself, somebody who
Yeah.
was buried underneath there, as you said, all of the layers that had been programmed in from living, from being human.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, ending up
So
here.
I love that. And I want to go deep into what you're actually doing now, which you have a practice. It's called Integrative Divorce Mediation, and you
Mm.
call it nervous system centered mediation. So, what is that? Tell us more.
So I had this vision. It was in the early 2000s once I first discovered yoga that had to be a way to blend all of these incredible things I was learning about myself and life on the mat with what I experienced in the courtroom in law because they were so different, right? Courtrooms
Mhm.
are so tense and there's so much stress, and I felt such the opposite when I was practicing yoga or in that world. And so I didn't quite know how it was going to meet out or how it was going to evolve. I started with holistic family law back in the mid 2000s when I first took my first step into it. Life happened. I didn't go that route. And then I found myself burned out on litigation and looking for what is my next story. What is my next chapter? And it came back to bringing the two things I love together. Like, why do I have to do two separate things? How can they work together? And so, knowing that divorce is one of the most stressful and difficult times people will experience, courts are not equipped to give people what they need and or want. And if we're doing it with intention and from a place of getting to resolution and setting up our best chances for success, we have to look at the body. That's what I've learned. I've learned all about the somatic work. I've learned all about the body. And the nervous system is kind of the magic that guides us. And so it felt like, honestly, I got really tired of telling my clients, the court can't help you because it can't. So many people would come to me and they're like, great, I want emotion, I want justice, I want to feel better, I want whatever it is that we all want. And the courts aren't equipped to do that. But when we learn how to take control back of our own lives and we can learn nervous system regulation and what that does for us, that to me is the magic. So I thought, all right, I've got to figure out a way to bring these two things together. And it took a little bit of time and a little bit of experimentation. But I'm doing it. I'm doing it. And again, it's an evolving practice. But what I'm doing is everything from how I set up what we do within our mediation sessions, how I price them, to actually doing things. I did a session with one part of a couple today on sound healing because that's what they needed today. So it's all of it. It's the whole structure to really think about who we are as people and what our bodies need to get us through to the other side.
Yeah, that's amazing. And, your practice is integrative divorce, and you've integrated the different aspects of your life together, your different skill sets to create something really, really unique. And you're also seeking a pretty different kind of audience because we have been programmed, we've been trained by society, by television, by church, by state that, divorce is bad. You go into the court system and it's going to be punitive. Someone's going to get punished and it's going to cost you a lot of money. And people feel like they have to fight when, and my role as well is to let's take the fight out. Let's see if we can defang that fear so that you start being able to stand on your own 2 feet. And
Yeah.
it's really powerful. So who are who are the couples that are walking into your space?
It's interesting. I think the right people find you when they're supposed to. And so I'm very clear about why I talk about nervous system regulation. It's all over my website, it's all over all my social media content. Anyone that's found me is going to know that that is what I do. but not everyone knows what that means and how does that, does it have to be, are you going to make me, do all these woo things? And I'm absolutely never going to make anyone do anything they're not comfortable doing. But I am, again, going to challenge us to sit in our emotions in a safe space, to be able to give ourselves permission to feel what we're feeling, whether that be together or holding space for people separately, and to understand what a dysregulated nervous system looks like and what a regulated nervous system can look like, so that they can make decisions from that place of regulation. Like when we understand the brain science, right? We know that when we're in that the sympathetic or the fight or flight mode, we can't make good decisions. Our brain goes offline, right? And when we come back into a place of regulation or the parasympathetic nervous system in balance, the logical mind comes on. And when we're asking people to make major life decisions about their finances, about their children, about their future, so many times I see people in court, right? Like the litigation part of court. How many divorces did I do in the back rooms in really quickly? It's a case that's been dragging on. You're there for the pre-trial or maybe even the trial, and you're trying to get it settled. And you're taking all of these big decisions that people have to make and writing them down, and really quickly, without all of the thought and the consideration that I believe it deserves. And you're asking people to make decisions in that moment. There's certainly, I don't know about you, but anytime someone goes to court, it's very hard to be regulated. Even for myself, it's a
Look,
dysregulating place.
yes. And I will share that, like in my own case, the process went on a long time. And then the lawyers who were fighting with each other said, we're going to hammer this out in mediation. And our mediator is a judge. We picked her for you. And we're going to settle the whole thing in a day. And then when it didn't settle and they picked a Sunday to meet the next time, which was not convenient to me because I worked on Sundays, the junior associate came and said to me, you got to get this done. And you're lucky that everyone wants to come in on Sunday. And there was a lot of arm twisting and feeling like I had no choice but to agree to things while I was so afraid. And now I understand how the limbic system works, that what that was with the sympathetic nervous system. And in all of my co-parenting work, I talk to people about, when are you triggered? When are you in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn? And how can you pause so that you can bring that other system back online, the parasympathetic? And
Yep.
so we're definitely in alignment on how we approach this process now. I'd love to ask you to share, what does dysregulation look like in the mediation space? I mean, I know what it looked like to me, but when you
Yeah.
see it, how do you sort of step people down from that ledge?
Yeah, so it'll look like positional. It gets very positional, very personal. You did, there's not any more I statements. All the agreements that we kind of make around how we're going to talk go out the window. And I'm someone who's also, I believe in energy. I'm an energy healer. I do a lot of work with energy, and I can feel it, right? Like my room is little. I get it. So I immediately can begin to feel when we're getting off track. But it takes the clients a little while to be able to do that. So I will interrupt it. I will just say I notice that things are getting, a little bit off track, if asking them to pause. One of the things I do before we ever start is a pretty comprehensive intake. And in that, I ask people, what are the things you need when I get dysregulated, or when you get upset, whatever words we use. And I'll talk to them about it before too. So we have some agreements that I can say, okay, so I'm just going to ask us to take a pause. And would you like to go for a walk? Would you like to, I have 3 spaces in my office. If I'm in Zoom, I'll stop the camera, let somebody go, take a break. And sometimes people come back. I've had some where they haven't, right? Like they just haven't been able to get themselves back in. I'll immediately check back in with them. But I don't let it continue, because things will be said to a place where we may not be able to get back, right? Like, so I really try and figure out, are we in true dysregulation that we need to stop, or do we just need that temporary pause? But as you said before, the pause is the most effective pattern interrupt that we can do, especially in these cases, because it gives people a chance to breathe and it gives people a chance to get out of that heightened state and back down into the, I don't want to say parasympathetic, but in that window of tolerance, I'm trying to get them back in, even if it's just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think when you set the ground rules, so you came to me for a reason. And I recognize that it is natural and human for things to start to get heated. My role is to help walk it back. My role is to help you get back to your centered space so we can have productive conversations. Like
Yeah.
that seems really powerful to me because it takes so much of the fear out. Like so often my clients tell me like he's a narcissist or she's a narcissist and she always does this and I never get a word in and I feel strangled. And when we know this in advance and we set the ground rules, you're really creating the opportunity for something new and positive to grow. And
Yeah.
again, I like the integrative divorce. I'm like now thinking about planting seeds in really nice, moist soil. So, yeah, I have a lot of
Yeah.
images that come to mind. So,
Well, and especially if they are going to be co-parenting, right? Because again, I do divorces for people who don't, and that's fine. And the relationship moving forward isn't as important. But for many, the first session is really set around goals, ground rules, agreements, and then we find where are we in agreement. It's always easier to start where
yeah,
agreement is before we dive into something controversial. And I like to actually, when I'm in person with them, I will write them out on a whiteboard, piece of paper. And when we do it in person, I keep putting that up as a reminder because I say, we're going to get derailed. It's inevitable. I haven't had a case that hasn't gone a little wonky. It's expected. We're going to use these to bring us back. It's like, it's all about that grounding and remembering why did you do this in the first place?
yeah, yeah. So in my co-parenting, we have a phrase, conflict is a given, but chaos is a choice. And
I
so
love that.
rolling us back from that, intensive fight or flight, we have mirror neurons, right? So if one starts fighting, then the other is going to fight back. It's all about pushing. So just interrupting, as you describe, it stops the pull.
Yeah.
That magnet just disconnects,
Yeah.
and it's really powerful. So we're at about the halfway mark. So we're going to take a little 30-second break, and when we come back, I want to talk about our abundance challenge.
Okay.
And we're back. I'm Lisa Lisser, and I'm here with Mardi Chadwick-Balcom, and we are talking about integrative divorce and somatic body work. And one of the ways that I connected with Mardi was back in last July when we first met. She was launching something she called a 40-day abundance challenge. And that sounded really interesting to me. I was thinking about it in terms of my business. Did I want to grow my business? How could I find the energy to do this, make myself a commitment? And I actually did it twice, two different challenges, and it's outrageous the power of the work. So I want to start by asking you, Mardi, describe for my audience what this challenge is about.
So it's based in Kundalini yoga, which is it's a type of yoga. If some people haven't heard about it, that's really energy based, and they call it the yoga of nervous system strength and the yoga of awareness. So we do things a little bit different, a lot of breath work, a lot of chanting, but it's all about moving our energy. And so it is a kriya. It's what they call these sets of exercises they do, called the abundance kriya. And what we are intending to do through chanting, through mudra, which is hands, a hand motion, and then some of the chanting and our body movement, activating our navel, which they say is our prosperity center. We are creating a vibration within us to attract abundance. And actually, it's not even to attract abundance, it's to activate the abundance attraction that's already within us, right? It's not like it's out there, it's in here. And I really like to think about it as shifting into a place of gratitude, because once we're coming from a place of gratitude, we're open to receive. And when we're open to receive, that's when we receive abundance in whatever form it is, whether that be love, time, money, space, whatever it is that we desire to have more of in our life, we're able to receive it because we're clearing the blocks and we're tuning into that frequency. So that's the essential premise around the 40-day abundance challenge, is what I was calling it.
So it's an amazing thing because it also is about creating a practice, right?
Yes.
Like, so there is a rule in this challenge that it's 40 days and you need to do it every day for 40 days. And if you skip, it's not a problem. However, you have to start from day one.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
that's a big incentive to find the time, even if it's 11:57 p.m. You want to get it in that day.
Yep.
So
Yep.
what's the psychology around that?
You're showing up for yourself. You've committed to something, and it's really important to show up for yourself, because how you show up for yourself on the mat is how you show up for yourself in life. And what they say is, my yoga teacher, I do a morning practice at Kundalini, what we call sadhana, 4 days a week at 5 a.m. And she says showing up is 80%. Show up and the magic will happen, but you got to get yourself there. So in the 40-day in the 40-day practice, it's showing up for yourself for 3 to 11 minutes. That's all we're asking. Minimum 3 minutes, maximum 11 on this one. You can't do it for more than that. They say that's greedy. So it's your commitment to yourself. And I've been doing Kundalini yoga for a long time. And I will say I had a really hard time showing up for myself independently doing the 40-day kriyas, which was part of why I created the challenge, because it's accountability. We're showing up for ourselves, but we're accountable to others. So the way we would do it is through Telegram. And we didn't do the practice together because everyone can do the practice however works in their life, but we checked in with each other. We had accountability. And it was no big deal. If somebody missed a day, okay, you started over. No biggie. It happens to everyone. Some days you forget, but the more you do it, the more it's like, it's retraining yourself. And that's the other thing. The power of the 40 days scientifically has shown us. I mean, if we look at all of the religious traditions, 40 days means something. And it takes that amount of time for us to begin to rewire, repattern, create habits, whatever, belief you're kind of plugging into. The 40 days has some very powerful meaning behind it.
Yeah, it's really it hits so many different levels, right? A lot of what I talk about when I talk about small atomic habits that you need to start crafting larger patterns in our brain for the neuroplasticity of our brain. This practice is exactly it. It teaches us that by holding ourselves accountable to doing this every day, we are able to go outside of our comfort zone. And it also has, taught me over this work that we stay in comfort zones that are not comfortable. Like just because we call it our comfort zone doesn't mean we like it, but it's something we know. It's something that's familiar. So when we walk outside of that familiarity, it's not so easy. But what I found so wonderful about the Abundance Challenge was that we had community and people were talking to each other on the Telegram. And
Yep.
you knew who was going to say what when. You like had a feeling we got to know each other's personalities.
Yeah.
And you got to hear about people's wins where they had success or abundance where they didn't expect it. And that
Yeah.
also is like, oh, maybe I can hit that energy somehow. Um,
Yeah.
it,
Yeah. And what I love about it too, doing it in community, is even though we weren't doing it together at the same time, we are part of a community. That's an energy. And so, what we know with nervous system regulation is co regulation, right? So, being part of something and part of a group, we're creating this, as you said, this energy, and it does have impact. If you choose to show up however you do, you will be impacted by it. And I just really found it to be such an incredible group of people. And I've done it, I think, 4 times now. I've done 4 different iterations of it. And every time it's always different, because different people come. Even if the same people came, it would be different because we're doing it
yeah,
at a different time. But it really is, it's a testament to the power of energy and the power of community.
yeah. And that's something that people going through divorce feel like they've lost. They
Yeah.
feel like they've lost community. They feel like they've lost their social network in many cases. Because going from being a couple to being a single, you have a whole different identity in that community that you used to be part of. And, when you talk about the communal relevance, it makes me think of Wendy Falk wrote a book that's called What We Value, and she's a neuroscientist. And she says we have 2 systems: the self-relevant system, who we think we are to ourselves, and the social relevant system. And when people around us are doing a particular activity or liking a certain action, or even any opinion you could find, we are more likely to gravitate toward that, and that's our social relevance. So if we want to stand up for the community, which is holding on to the commitment to the 40 days, then we're helping everybody else hold up.
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
really it's really amazing.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I'm looking forward to it. I haven't set up the next one yet, but I'm thinking we're getting close to May. It's probably going to be June in all reality, because one of my goals for my business this year was to work with 26 couples to get them through divorce, um, for 2026. So we're at, what are we at, April 14th today? I've already got 13. So I
Amazing.
like, which is great. I'm like, wow, all the hutting, as we call it,
Yeah.
it has paid off. But yeah, I really like it. And I've seen abundance in my life in so many different ways. I did it very consistently last year. There was a lot that I did, and it makes a difference. It really, when you kind of pause and reflect, wow, like all the things that have shifted, and the way,
Yeah.
again, it's not just money to me. It's for me, it's clients, it's people in my life, it's time, it's space. It's amazing.
Because so much of what everyone experiences, but especially people going through the dysregulation of divorce, is scarcity. There's
Yes.
scarcity of time. There's scarcity of confidence. There's scarcity of knowledge. And you feel scarcity of knowing yourself, because all of a sudden you're not the person you thought you were, or the person you thought you were isn't there anymore. And
Yeah.
so in this world where you feel so tight and tied up, the abundance practice allows us to open to the possibility. You know,
Yep.
I at the beginning of this last practice, I really resonated with being open to receive and
Mm.
what that's like. And there was, there's a modern prayer that my cantor in my synagogue wrote, and it had a melody: "May I be open, open to receive." And so
Mm.
I would chant that to myself on the way to my horror meditation,
I
because
love that.
it just because now I had something familiar to connect with what was unfamiliar. And so it
Yeah.
was really amazing.
Beautiful.
So I'm going to go back to like business.
Okay.
So you write that one of the unique things about your practice is you have a flat fee. So
Yes.
tell us about that. Like that is so hard to process when everything feels measured. Everything is an hourly rate. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I was just noticing I started doing hourly because that's what lawyers do, right?
Yeah.
And even though most of my law career I worked for nonprofits, so I wasn't a billable lawyer, right? I never had to market and get cases, and I never had to bill. So getting into my own business, these are two things you have to do all of a sudden. So I go down that route. And what I realized is it didn't feel good to me. And I noticed that clients, they didn't want to call and talk to me, or, everything they're worried about, like, okay, gosh, did that email just cost me $100? They're looking at it as dollars or value, however you want to look at it, it's being measured versus a true interaction, a true communication. And if we're really trying to get people to an outcome, which is co-create an agreement that they can live with, that's really the outcome. That's
Mhm.
my desired outcome. It's what I say I'm going to do with them. When we're worried about every time you talk to me, all you're seeing is a bill, it didn't work. It
Yeah.
didn't work. So, and I found myself getting dysregulated because now I'm going to have to, oh my God, did I charge for that? When did I talk to them? Now I have to create this whole
Yeah.
system. And it's a very dysregulating practice in my experience, like
Yeah.
tracking every minute of what you do. So I just said, you know what? Let me just look back and just see how many hours it typically takes and come up with a pricing model, which is what I did. So I will say it's flat fee with a caveat. It typically is 5 sessions because that's what it takes. It usually takes three to 5 sessions. But I also work with folks in between. We'll do some check-ins. We'll do some, as I said, I do some sound healing, some breath work, whatever folks need. That's part of the package. Um, and I only do that because I have never had a case like this, but I have heard of cases where people just refuse to agree and mediations go on for a year. And I'm like, that's not this.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
not this mediation. I'm sure there's other people who would be happy to have you and they will bill you hourly for that. So we go to, a cap, which again, I've never had a case that's gotten that way. People have been really respectful of that. And I haven't had one that we haven't been able to get to a resolution. We get close, right? We get close. But I think, again, people who come to me truly want that. They don't want to go to court. They don't want to fight about it. So, we get to a point where it's like, what can we do to get us so it feels fair for both
Yeah.
parties or equitable?
I
Yeah.
mean,
So
that's huge because um, not being worried that every minute is counting and you have like a wallet that the coins are going into that is going to someone else, like your future is going away. The
yeah,
idea that you can regulate, and integrate all these different tools because you might pay a somatic healer one thing and your therapist another thing and your mediator another thing and your coach another thing. But what you give them is one space where you
yeah,
integrate all of those practices and
yeah,
they come out with an agreement that is co-created that they can live with.
yeah.
So
Now, they may end up having to have like a coach there because I don't do necessarily that kind of coach, like divorce coaching for them. But I work with those professionals. And again, it's clear, right? It's kind of
mhm,
clear if we bring in a CDFA or a CDLP. And then I can't be their lawyer because I'm their
right,
mediator. So they
right.
might need to hire a lawyer to review. No problem. We talk about all that up front. So again, helping people, I have, networks to connect people with so that they can know what they're getting into. And
Mhm.
that's going to give their nervous system seeks certainty. We just do. Divorce is so uncertain. Wherever I can provide certainty as part of the process, I feel like it's my obligation as a practitioner doing this work so that we can get to a place that has some certainty. An agreement is the guide, the framework and the guide moving forward.
Yeah. So I love that. People are searching for certainty in an uncertain moment of their lives, and they're
Yeah.
looking for a safe space to navigate the turbulent waters. So
Yep.
that's what you're giving them.
Yep.
I love that. We're like, unbelievably, we're so at the end of time, but I could talk to you forever. As we end the segment, Marty, tell my audience one thing you want to leave them with, and how can they get in touch with you?
So what I would say, if you're going through divorce, I hear and feel that this is one of the hardest things that you may face in your adult life, likely, and you can do this. And it will not be easy, but we can do hard things and know that there's a team of people there around this to support you. And if you don't have that team yet, I encourage you to try and find someone because you deserve that. And then they can find me. I'm at integrativedivorcemediation.com. You can either check out the website. You can email me. That's my social media on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all of them. I think they're all at the same. Threads is where I spend most of my time, honestly. So Integrative Divorce Mediation, that's just that platform's better for my nervous system than some of the others. Honestly, it's easier. And then, my podcast, The Regulated Lawyer, will be launching in June on Apple, Spotify, and wherever podcasts are found.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much. I feel more calm and regulated as we speak. It is so nice to have you here, and I'm sure we can talk forever. For my audience, I'm Lisa Lisser, and I'd love to hear from you. You can always reach me at lzlcoaching.com. My email is lisa@lzlcoaching.com. And you can find me on Instagram at Divorce Coach Lisa. Thanks for coming, and I'm excited till the next time we meet. Bye-bye.